Welcome everyone, Dr. Naveen here from UPSC MEDICO. For medical aspirants with MBBS or non-MBBS background, like we have students from BDS, Ayurveda, Homeopathy and Naturopathy, BSc Nursing, Physiotherapy, etc. So for all these beginners who are starting their UPSC preparation, they'll end up having optional dilemma. If you have an optional dilemma, there is nothing to worry, because it is a usual phenomenon whenever an aspirant starts his or her UPSC preparation. So this video, the reason behind recording it is we will address that issue, and we'll also give you a checklist which helps you in choosing your optional on a right time, and also how to prepare with that optional. Now for beginners, it's very important to understand the importance of choosing right optional and also preparing according to the demand of the exam. So for that, I want to take first a few minutes to brief you what are the 3 steps of UPSC Civil Service Examination. Now it starts with preliminary stage. Around 13 to 15 lakhs of aspirants, they appear for this test, and this exam is of qualifying nature. There are 2 papers in it. You have General Studies 1 and 2. The second paper is more important for medical aspirants because for long we lost touch with logical reasoning questions, mathematics related questions, right? So CSAT cutoff is it's not cutoff, CSAT is qualifying again. The cutoff is taken from GS scores, but again most of the medical students, they end up not scoring well in CSAT for multiple reasons. So your first take home from this particular video is, please give due respect to CSAT and start thinking about CSAT from the initial part of your preparation. So this is your first takeoff. Next is, there are around 15,000 students who will go to the stage of mains. That is not even 0.04%, let's say, right? Hardly 0.01%, 0.04%, depending upon the number of lakhs of aspirants who are appearing for preliminary stage. Now this is scoring in nature. Okay, the mains is scoring in nature. There are multiple subjects in it, starting from essay. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 GS papers, and optional 2 papers are there. Overall, they carry a weightage of 1750 marks. The language papers, Indian language and English, they are qualifying in nature. They are not scoring. You have to just score 33.3 or 35%. Now next comes the personality test. Once you score well in the mains, you will be recommended to interview or personality test. It's very important that this is not interview per se, this is personality test. That means you should start working on your personality and DAF not after clearing mains. From the initial part of your preparation itself, you should imagine yourself thinking in front of UPSC board and answering questions. So for that, for all the doctors, medical aspirants, it is very important to develop communication skills, be part of extracurricular activities in your college, be the face and voice of your batch. Okay, work on a lot of extracurricular things, service oriented things, build your DAF. Okay, if you're just a beginner starting from first or second MBBS, it's very important for you to build your DAF. Think in the lines of UPSC. Think like a preventive doctor, not a curative doctor. Think about the society. Okay, broaden your horizon about the society. Don't limit yourself to a medical college or a medical stuff. So personality test preparation should begin, right? Like how I said, CSAT is very important, the first take home. The second take home is, don't just think about personality test after clearing mains. Start it early. Okay, start thinking about your DAF in the initial part of your preparation itself. Now then the results part. Now overall, as you could see here, out of 2025 marks, many of the students, they end up scoring 1000 plus, and they comfortably are in the list. That means it is nearly 50%. So you only need to score 50% in this exam to crack it. It speaks 2 dimensions. One, you should gain better knowledge or good knowledge of more than 50%. You don't have to learn everything for UPSC. So you can be smart enough to score 50%. And second thing is, people are struggling to score more than 50%. That means it also speaks about the difficulty nature of this exam. The level of difficulty is high for this exam. So you have to keep both the things in mind. If you're smart, you can crack it. But again, even if you're smart, you have to work hard, because it is tough to score more than 50% in this particular exam. When you look at the overall total, that is out of 2075 here, 500 out of 2075 is weightage for optional. Now it goes without saying, optional is crucial for this exam. Like almost 25% of the weightage. One more interesting thing about medical science optional is, if you opt for medical science, let's say there are two classic examples. I spoke to these two doctors. The interviews are available in UPSC MEDICO YouTube channel. We have Dr. Nitila Priyanti. She is All India rank 143, 2023. And also we have Dr. Anshu Priya. She is All India rank 16, 2021. Both interviews are available in the UPSC Medical YouTube channel. She scored 205, the second highest in the personality test, and she scored around 201, I think, second highest in the personality test. That means when I spoke to them, they clearly admitted that their weightage of questions in the personality test which are health related are more than 50%. And even Nitila said that it's almost more than 70% of the questions are from medical background. If you are a medical science aspirant, if you are a medical student, if in your personality test they are asking you more questions about health related aspects, it's a dictum that you are going to score very high in that particular PT, because I had seen this happening to many of the students. On an average, medical science student, they score 20 plus extra marks in the personality test in comparison to other optional students. Okay, this is actually a fact. The reason I'll tell you. See, per se, being an MBBS or an MD or any health related doctor itself will give you an extra edge, because examiner is always impressed to look at the specialist, right? The specialists have their own charm, and on top of that we do have a lot of communication skills, and also smartness, and also our way of answering and analytic skills are definitely good in comparison to most of the humanitarian students. I'm not putting a bias because I'm a doctor, and I'm not giving you all these stats without any facts. So there are facts, and I could see students with medical science background are scoring good score in personality test. There are outliers, but again the scoring pattern is good. So when you look at these things, I can conclude by saying not only 500 out of 2075, around 50 to 100 marks in your PT or personality test now depends upon one more factor, that is your optionals. So overall medical science optional is 550 plus to 600. Overall medical science optional, it is 550 plus to 600. That amounts to almost 30% of your preparation time for optional. Because weightage is almost 30%, your preparation time should also be nearly 30% for your optional. So the third take home is, optional is crucial, optional is critical, and very importantly, optional should get its own respect and time. I had seen many of the young doctors ignoring their medical science optional because they have been doing 5.5 years of medical study. They think that they will be able to score high, but that's not the case. Even if you have done well in your medical college, even if you have secured a lot of gold medals or good percentage, even after that, please spend at least 3 hours out of 10 hours of your daily learning, or at least 3 to 4 months of your study in a year of preparation, whatever it is. This is what I say, 30:70 ratio. 30% of your preparation time should go for optional, because it carries almost 25 to 30% of marks weightage. Okay, so this is your optional weightage. And the third take home is, give due respect and diligence to your optional. Now, next disclaimer. Now I have tried to give you 3 important points for beginners from medical science background, or doctors per se, if you're not opting for medical science also. The first thing is, focus on CSAT. Many of the students are struggling there. Okay, and second important thing is, prepare for personality test from the initial part of your learning itself. In the medical college itself, you transform the platform into explore more, broaden your horizon. And the third important thing is, optional requires 30% of your learning time. Right? These are the 3 take homes. Now, how to choose an optional? See, because I am a doctor, because I have an experience of mentoring almost 1,000 plus students in past 6 years, I have around 60 plus all India rankers with me. Their knowledge, their wisdom, their way of strategizing medical science, their preparation strategy and all, everything I know. And also very importantly, because I am also from medical science background, I do understand the pros and cons of medical science, right? So in the further part of our discussion, I might sound sometimes biased. I'll be very honest in my analysis towards optional choosing, but sometimes I might sound that medical science is good, but I want to give a disclaimer saying that I am not here to make you choose medical science optional. My purpose is not that. If my purpose is that, I could have recorded this video 4 or 5 years back when I am strategizing for medical science. I never do that because it is you, the aspirant, should choose an optional. It's your choice. It's your choice. But if you have a dilemma, I'm here to help you because I'm here with facts. Okay, I'll be throwing a lot of facts in the subsequent part of our discussion. But the disclaimer is, I'm not here to make you choose medical science optional. I'm here to guide. If you have opted for medical science optional. If your optional is medical science, I'm here to mentor you further throughout your preparation phase. Okay, I'll be your senior. Okay, I'll be your mentor throughout your medical science preparation, and I'll guide you till your last stage because we also give interview guidance for medical science students. So the disclaimer part is done. Now let's get into, like, let's say you're a beginner, you're struggling to choose an optional. Okay, you need a checklist. So this checklist is made with my 6 years of experience, plus I spoke to a lot of students from different optional backgrounds, and also I have searched through a lot of YouTube videos and Google Forms, and also I went to blogs of most of the coaching institutes where they're guiding or where they're helping in students choosing their optional. There are a lot of strategies. So the best thing which I could come across is this: how to choose optional. There are two criteria. One is primary criteria, other is secondary or relative criteria. For primary criteria, I want to give you a score of 2. For secondary criteria, I want you to take score of 1. Okay. So how many elements do we have? We have 6 here. So the total score is 12. And we have 3 here. The total score is 3. So the final score is 15. Now, take up your optional as X, put it here. Let's say in our case it is medical science, and let's try to score it. Okay, it is medical science. I'm just taking a hypothetical example. If you have chosen other optional, you can put even that also. So I'm taking medical science as an optional. Now I have to rate it. Okay, so let me rate it. Now first and foremost, I'm taking it in the medical science way. Yes. Do you have an interest and passion? So for me, Dr. Naveen, yes, I'm interested in medical science. I do have a graduation knowledge here. I have a graduation knowledge. Guidance, is it available? Yes, UPSC MEDICO is there for last 4 to 5 years, and I have produced good results with medical science optional. Success percentage, yes, medical science has highest success percentage among all the optionals. You can open Google and type which optional has highest success rate. There will be hundreds of articles saying medical science optional has highest success rate. Will it help as a plan B? Yes, definitely it helps in plan B, because for a medical student, if something goes bad, because you being successful in this exam is 0.007% overall statistics say. So I think it is very tough nut to crack, right? If something goes really bad, I might sound discouraging, but this is a hard fact that you should understand. For this competitive exam with lowest success rate and toughest exam, you always need a plan B, that is a backup thing. I think in this case, medical science serves as a very good backup for medical graduates, because after MBBS or let's say MD or MS, or let's say even your bachelor Ayurveda or homeopathy, whatever it is, you can still work like a DMO with medical knowledge, or you can still write combined medical service exam and become a central health officer, or you can even go for NEET PG or specialty PG or next PG and further continue your education, right? Or you can go and work in a PHC, or you can go for state PCs also. Some of the state PCs still have optional as medical science, like Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, they still have medical science as their optional. So even state civil services also you can perform well. So there are a lot of options. You can get into teaching part. Okay, so there are a lot of options which are open if you choose medical science as your optional, and this is the primary criteria and most important criteria, I could see a lot of students who are opting for medical science, because a doctor from medical background, you will find very rarely a doctor giving more than 2 to 3 attempts in this particular exam. Very rarely, because they have decided that let's give a try for 2 to 3 years, then with the same medical knowledge they are writing NEET PG or next, and they're getting into PG education. They're choosing some non-clinical like biochemistry, PSM, then they're coming back and working hard. I think they're keeping their plan B open. Okay, I think that is a very good way of choosing an optional. The plan B should be open. And whether it's a static subject or a dynamic subject, 99.99% of the times medical science doesn't change much. Yes, there is a dynamic component, that is PSM, National Health Programs. They will be updated, but apart from that, most of them are static. The treatment remains same. Anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, they are the most static ones, right? Even pathology, the lab, microbiology, the microorganisms, their cultural characteristics, they are all static. So it is static subject. The greatest advantage of choosing a static subject is when you are preparing for UPSC, there is a lot of current affair things which happen with GS, and lot of time goes into kind of making value additions to these GS subjects. Okay, value additions to these GS subjects. Then what happens? The problem here is you might end up taking a lot of time in refining your notes, making value additions to your notes. So this kills time. So on top of that, if you choose any dynamic subject, dynamic current affair related optional subject, then you have to even work more for this optional. Okay, so then that's the problem. So I think these are all the things, absolute or primary criteria. I think medical science, I personally feel, is scoring good here, because it's like 6 into 2, almost 12 marks, right? Okay, 12 points. Now let's go to the secondary criteria. First, let me give a disclaimer saying that these 3 criteria are relative to me, secondary to me as a Dr. Naveen. I might sound biased, but I'll tell you the logic behind this, because scorability should be never be a criteria to choose an optional, because UPSC board is not publishing scores on a public platform. For example, let's say the most famous optional is sociology. 2500 plus students that opt for it. Next comes geography, sociology. Next comes geography. 2000 plus students they opt for it, and also anthropology. Nearly 2500, like 2000 plus students they opt for it. Among these 3 famous optionals, like almost out of 15,000 students who are qualifying, 7,500 students are opting for it. Even after that, the success percentage of these optionals is less than 8%. This is what I call it as a herd mentality. If these optionals are the best optionals, their success percentage should be high. Maybe there is sample bias, too many people are writing these optionals, so maybe that could be the reasons they are not performing well. So it goes without saying, more score or more average score. You have to look at the average number of people who are performing well, that is success percentage. If you go by top mark, let's say an optional X, let's say anthropology, one of the aspirants scored 305. Because one of the optional ranker scored 305 in the top 10, you cannot choose that optional for 2 reasons. One thing is, you don't know the bias behind it. Is he from a medical background, or is he given it in 1 or 2 attempts, or does he have any graduation knowledge about this anthropology subject, or is he from IIT or IIM? Because IIT and IIM students, they prepare for 5 to 7 years starting from their MBBS engineering days. They have a lot of time to prepare for these, and they give multiple attempts. They're starting at very early age, at the age of 21, right? So that's the reason there are a lot of factors which decide a particular score by a particular student, which are not in the market. You cannot have statistics behind it. So just based on a top score, you cannot choose an optional. But overall success percentage is the criteria to decide upon an optional. On an average, how much a particular optional, like how many students are in this optional, and their success percentage and their average score should help you in deciding choose an optional, not scorability, unless and until UPSC board comes up with the data. If they publish saying that this year sociology students are the highest marks getters aggregatively, that will never happen, because UPSC, they do scaling in optional. Scaling in optional. They'll make sure that justice prevails, because all the students with all the optionals, they get average score. Okay, it's not that one optional is given special care or due diligence. It is not that. Each optional, on average, they score 260 to 280. Okay, on an average. Very rarely with students with expertise knowledge, they end up scoring 280 to 300, and out of all the 1000 rankers, you hardly see 10 to 12 students getting more than 300. Okay, very hardly you will see. Almost, if you take top 100 last year in 2023, hardly 20 to 30 students are scoring more than 300. The average score is 280 only, be it be any optional. Okay, the average score is 280. So scoreability is always a secondary criteria. So you cannot decide an optional based on scoreability. If you think that many of the students think that medical science is not scoreable, I'll tell you why it is not scoreable, because we commit a lot of blunders as medical students. So I'll not put here. Syllabus is huge, they say, medical science. So secondary criteria. Why syllabus is secondary criteria? Do you think UPSC is willingly giving more syllabus to medical science and less syllabus to engineering students? No. The syllabus dimensions are same. They have asked board to give ideal syllabus to all the optionals. But we perceive it as huge for reasons being there are multiple subjects. It is again a relative feeling. For me as a doctor, because I am traveling with this optional for 6 years, I still feel it is less than 10% of what we read in medicine. Unless you understand the syllabus, unless you understand the demand of the exam, you will feel that medical science is of a huge syllabus. But it's a relative feeling. People have done well with medical science and people feel that it is less, the syllabus is less. For example, in biochemistry, you don't have glycolytic pathways, glycolysis pathway. Any metabolic pathway is not there in the biochemistry. In microbiology, only 3 bacteria are there, only 3 viruses, only 3 parasites. You won't see hundreds of bacteria or hundreds of parasites in the syllabus, only 3. So they trimmed it in such a way, like if you take biochemistry, only 4 topics are there: protein synthesis, vitamins and minerals. If you take pediatrics, only 7 topics. If you take dermatology, only 7 topics, and in each exam 4 out of 7 topics are repeated. So what I am trying to tell is, syllabus understanding is still a relative criteria. You have to understand the depth of it. So still I feel that many of the students, medical science background, they feel syllabus is huge. I am not giving any points here. So link to GS and overlap is nil, because you cannot link your medical science answers with something else. It is again a relative criteria. I'll tell you why link to GS is a relative criteria. Let's say link to GS or overlap. There was one interesting question raised by one of the student recently from medical science background. Sir, can I include medical science related data in GS answers? I straight away said no. Reason is, the evaluators, the examiners for GS papers, they do not have any medical knowledge. They might feel that yes, good that you have given some extra points, but they'll not carry good weightage, because you have to fight this war on a level ground. Your GS answers should contain common data, which is relevant data, and also which is specific to GS, not specialty knowledge, because these are general study papers, not specialty papers, right? So what is the point of having a link to GS? No. So you cannot link that. This is one relative criteria I want to discuss. The other thing is, overlap might not always help you, because any GS subject with overlap, students are not able to score well. For example, if you take geography, which has a very good overlap, you take history, people are struggling. Not many take up economics, though there is an overlap, because if this is your graduation knowledge, if this is your honors level, optional, the general study subjects, they deal at a graduation knowledge. If you go to PG, they deal you at a honors level. But optional syllabus or optional weightage or optional analysis is done a step higher than graduation knowledge, close to the honors level. Okay, and it is very difficult for medical science background student to gain honors level knowledge in these new subjects, because you are already struggling to learn lot of GS subjects. On top of that, if you go for an optional which has an overlap with GS, to gain that honors level knowledge, you have to make a lot of value additions because they are current affair related. You have to follow them. You cannot compete with an MSc economics student when you choose economics as your optional, because they always fare higher because they have a strong foundation of graduation knowledge. On top of that, they kind of build their knowledge to reach this honors level so that they score high in optional. But for a medical science student, any overlap subject, then it becomes difficult for them. Some says choose an optional which is close to GS or overlap with GS. I say it's a relative criteria for multiple reasons. One of the reason is optional papers are set at a standard which is higher than the graduation knowledge. For a doctor or a medical student to gain that knowledge, it takes more time than usual, and it is not worthy also, because you're not going to become an economist, right? If you gain extra knowledge in medicine, at least if something goes bad, you can become a specialist later in your life. But gaining knowledge in economy, geography, history, sociology, or anthropology is of no use to you because you are not going to become an anthropologist. You might argue saying that anthropology people are scoring high, but anthropology people are scoring high. Doctors with anthropology are not the toppers of anthropology. Let me be very frank with you. So don't always go by top mark. Don't always think that syllabus is huge. Try to understand the syllabus, and don't try to link your optional with GS. Try to keep it as a static subject, because you don't have to worry much about the value additions, because you're not going to do this in one attempt. It's going to take more than one attempt. So when you're taking more than one attempt, if you don't have a static subject, then the burden will be more. Then you have to make value additions of one more year. So optional, every year you have to work hard, right? So choosing a static subject, I think if you work hard for once, then you can only memorize, practice, revise, right? So that is one thing. So this chart is very important, how to choose optional. Okay, I have put medical science here. You can put something else. Let's work it on anthropology and see, for a doctor, for a medical student, let's score anthropology. Anthropology people think that yes, they might be interested, I'll do 2. Graduation knowledge nil. Guidance, yes, very good guidance is available. Success percentage is low. It will not serve as a plan B. It's not a static subject, because looking at the level of the competition, anthropology requires a lot of value addition. This is not point by Dr. Naveen. I had spoke to many of the students, and they need value additions to anthropology to score high. So scoreability, let's give 2, because people have a bias. Not 2, because it's a relative criteria. I'll give 1. Syllabus is tiny, they say, but I don't think syllabus is tiny, and syllabus is not at all linked to medicine. Only genetics part is linked to medicine, that is biology, 12th standard biology. Apart from that, anthropology has no science in it, medical science in it. Now linked to GS, I don't think it is linked to GS. It's a specialty optional altogether. So the score is 4-6. So medical science score is 12, anthropology score is 6. Now please avoid herd mentality. Okay, if you go to a coaching institute, because they don't offer medical science, they don't have a faculty to do that. When a doctor comes to their coaching institute, they're in their initial part of their preparation, you are like a chocolate to them. You are like a jock pot. Okay, they think that you're going to score well, you will be in the list. So they want you to stay associated with their institute, and 9 out of 10 institutes, they have an anthropology or a sociology faculty. What they'll do is they will kind of brainwash you to choose something else, saying that there is no one to teach you medical science, there is no guidance, syllabus is huge, and people don't score well, there are no toppers from medical science. They say all this blah 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 just to put that bias in your mind. Make sure that you choose optional package with GS package with minimal amount, and you start learning with them, and you bring glory to them. It is a selfish reason. I'm very sad to say this, but this is not the words which are cooked by me. Many of the students, they call me and they say that my institute is pushing me to take something else. Okay, I think you cannot bias, or you cannot put bias in the minds of students. Even Dr. Naveen never calls an anthropology student and ask him to choose medical science, because this is a crime. Okay, let's not get into that debate. I gave a disclaimer saying, if you have opted for anthropology, if you have interest in it, if you want to do well, you can do well. So I am of an opinion that a medical science student can do wonders even with mathematics as an optional. We have that IQ. We can do well with any of the optional. But what I am trying to tell is facts. We have been misguided for long. There was no one to guide. That's why doctors are of an opinion that medical science is not a good optional. But with the stats and with the facts, with the analysis, I'm telling you, just look at what I just done. I have given you the primary and secondary criteria. Okay, medical science is a good optional based on these facts. If you have interest in medicine, anyway you have graduation knowledge, guidance is available with the help of UPSC MEDICO. Success percentage is high according to the statistics. It helps you in plan B, and it is a static subject which doesn't need any value additions. You can make it scoreable because UPSC MEDICO is here to help you out. Syllabus understanding is very important because syllabus is tiny. You might have a bias. You don't need any link to GS. That's a headache and a burden. So when you understand this, medical science still fares well. Okay, it is a good optional. It is a good optional. Let's do further comparison because these days I'm getting a lot of calls from students from anthropology background. Okay, they might have chosen based on the herd mentality. The 9 out of 10 times, the major reason why a medical science student chooses anthropology is herd mentality. They say that all my friends have opted for anthropology, let me go there. And they say my coaching institute is not offering medical science, let me choose anthropology. They say that some of the seniors told them that anthropology is a scoring subject, but nowhere in the world you will find the statistics or data released by UPSC or data released by these anthropology coaching institutes about how many students have appeared, how many are able to score 280 plus. Nobody will release that because that will cause bias. But UPSC MEDICO in 2023 is one institute which released optional scores of all my 29 toppers. They scored in the range of 260 to 287. I have given an average score, how they scored, how they do it well in personality test. Everything is there in the UPSC MEDICO website. If you have stats on hand, then only believe them. Otherwise, don't go with herd mentality. So the first weakness with anthropology is the herd mentality. Okay, herd mentality. And also second weakness with anthropology is it needs a lot of value additions to stay relevant. For example, if you are competing with 2500 students, the top brains of India, to present answers in a commanding fashion so that you are able to beat these students, it requires a lot of efforts, right? And also anthropology knowledge, unless they ask any questions in the PT, is no help in personality test because you are a doctor irrespective of whatever optional you choose. They will drill you in health related aspects only because your DAF says that you are an MBBS graduate or a UBMS graduate. They will only ask questions in that regard. 1 or 2 questions will be asked in anthropology if they want to grill you, because by the time they ask anthropology they are already tired, because you could see a lot of students from the same background. They will never ask anthropology question. But if you see a medical science student with medical science optional, they want to test you in that medical science ground, and people are scoring well with that. And there's an interview in the UPSC Medical YouTube channel recorded Dr. Akshita Gupta. She's, I think, All India rank 69 in the year 2020 along with Dr. P. Srija. I was talking to her and she told me one interesting thing. She went to personality test. It's not a mock interview, it's a final interview by UPSC board. She admitted saying that when she went there and sat, the board is very happy that she has opted for medical science. Okay, this is not my words, I'm not cooking them. The interview is there in the UPSC Medical YouTube channel. You can go and watch it. Okay, Akshita told me that they are very happy you have chosen your graduation subject, because during those days, because UPSC Medical is just entering into mentoring medical science students, now the bias is not there because I have 1000 plus students who are learning with me now, right? The mindset is changing slowly. We are coming out of the herd mentality, but still, let's go back to the story of Dr. Akshita Gupta. So All India rank 69, she told me that the board is very happy that she opted for medical science. So they asked a lot of questions. She scored well in personality. She is like an IAS officer now. So what does it indicate? The sole purpose why UPSC has given you an option of optional, you have to understand that. Optional, they give you your graduation subjects there. Even they believe that an exam with a success rate of 0.007%, what if you end up on the losing side? If you only fight in the GS background, that is generalistic study, you will lose your specialty knowledge. then what happens? You are neither fit for UPSC if you fail, you are neither fit to work in your own specialty. So that's why an engineer should choose an engineering subject, a medical student should choose a medical subject, a law firm student should choose a law, right? So it's very important that you choose optional of your graduation knowledge, because the top creamy layer, the 10,000 students of India, the aspirants who are the creamiest layer of India, only 1,000 will be doing work for civil services. The 9,000 people, if they lose their specialist knowledge, it's like losing the human resource knowledge of India. It should be put into good use. It can only be put into good use if they retain their graduation knowledge. But it takes 4 to 5 attempts of UPSC. They easily give 4 to 5 attempts. Then if you don't choose their optional as their graduation knowledge, slowly it drains off and they become irrelevant in the current competition. So that's why optional is still there in UPSC. If they ask me to vote whether to keep optional or remove it, I'll still go for keeping it there. The optional should be there in UPSC for the sole reason that the doctors, if they cannot perform well, it's a hard truth, it's a honest truth. You being successful in this exam is less than 0.01%. So you should have a strong backup plan B. It is only possible if you stay connected to medical science, right? That is the strongest reason, and you'll slowly realize it. It's good that some of the doctors were able to do it with something else. They are getting rid of medicine and they are entering to the civil services. It's okay. It worked out well for them. They were able to be successful. But it is not usual case with all the aspirants, right? The nature has given only 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000 students to get into this. So what is the fate of the remaining students? So optional gives you that plan B thing. So I could say medical science helps in plan B, whereas anthropology, there is no help in plan B. This is the major reason. And we already discussed high success percentage. You already have a graduation knowledge. You can work up to reach to the honors level or PG knowledge. You can start from here. If you start with another optional, you have to start from ground zero. It takes a lot of time. So these are the advantages. High success helps in personality test and also static optional. The advantages of anthropology are, they say the syllabus is short, you can finish off easily. It's a scoring optional, I don't know, it's relative. But very importantly, because it is like favorite choice of many of the aspirants, good guidance and material are available in the market, right? Now the weakness, they say, is the weakness with medical science is syllabus is lengthy, but I have recorded syllabus understanding video. Syllabus understanding video. If you go through that 1 hour video, then you will realize that it is not that lengthy. They say it's a low scoring or low yield optional, but we can still make it a high scoring. We'll talk about that in detail. And no guidance available. It's a utter wrong thing, because I am guiding 1,000+ students now. Okay, and they're all happy. And very importantly, there is no overlap, they say, and we already discussed about overlap. It's good that there is no overlap. At least a static subject stays with you. You don't need to work from ground zero again, right? And these are the advantages and disadvantages of medical science versus anthropology. See, if you have opted for anthropology, don't get disheartened. But even if you have a 1% doubt about anthropology, I think medical science always scores above anthropology in a lot of aspects, right? I think this gives you a clear idea about what is actually happening and what is the fact. What is fact versus what is a myth. So when I say myth, let's try to discuss about the myths about medical science optional. This should give you more positive impact towards medical science. They say syllabus is huge, but it's only 10% of what you read in MBBS. So that's why we released a focus guide. We released a gray zone discussion video. Okay, it's there in the UPSC Medical YouTube channel. Take a time and download focus guide from the website. Take time and watch syllabus understanding video and gray zone video from the UPSC Medical YouTube tube. You will understand that syllabus is not that huge. There's no guidance. Please don't say that. 29 doctors are in the list in 2023. UPSC Medical is with 5 years of experience, and we have 1,000+ doctors now part of UPSC Medical. We are providing up-to-date material, videos plus test series, previous year paper model answers, and we are also conducting guidance sessions by All India rank toppers, and all the All India rank topper interview videos have been uploaded in the UPSC MEDICO YouTube channel. UPSC MEDICO YouTube channel, I have uploaded them. Okay, I have uploaded them. Please do watch them. Now the same thing, see here, UPSC MEDICO All India Rankers. When I started in 2020, we have 4. We jumped to 9 in 2021. We jumped to 16 in 2022. And we have jumped to 29 plus doctors. All the doctor details with their marks are posted in the UPSC MEDICO article section. Okay, we have a website called UPSC MEDICO. In the article section, I have posted an article of the marks of all these doctors along with the interviews of top rankers. So guidance is available. You don't have to worry in that lines. They say it's a low scoring. See, scoring high in optional is not the sole criteria, because it's a relative criteria. Unless UPSC publishes scores of all the toppers, there is always a bias. Let's say anthropology with 2500 students with less than 8% success rate, hardly 10 to 12 students in the list, they score more than 300 in anthropology. You cannot compare this sample size of 2500 with the sample size of 100 students in medical science. There is a sample bias. If you know little bit of statistics, you understand that if there is a sample bias, you cannot do proper comparison. That is what is happening with medicine versus anthropology. 100 students versus 2500 students. I want to tell you 9 out of 10 students who crack, 9 out of 10 medical students who crack UPSC, they choose medical science as their optional. It's a hard known fact. Very rarely 2 out of 10 students, they crack it from anthro or history or sociology or geography. It's their personal choice. I'm not discouraging that. I'm not saying that 0 students crack from other optional. I am of an opinion that if doctor is given time and proper coaching, he can even crack it with mathematics. Okay, I'm proud that we have that IQ. But end of the day, look at the relative percentage. There is a sample size bias. This is what I want to tell. There is a sample size bias. Scoring high in optional is not the sole criteria. And 58 students last year in 2023 from UPSC MEDICO, they have attended mains. 41 students attended personality test and 29 students are in the list. Look at the success. It is more than 40%. Those who have guided. There are few students who are not part of UPSC MEDICO. Those are the students who are not happy with medical science most of the times, because this exam, medical science optional, like your NEET PG preparation, requires guidance, requires the help of your mentor, because it's a difficult exam, difficult nut to crack. Okay, if you are reluctant to take guidance, at least go through the free content which is available in the UPSC MEDICO website and also the UPSC MEDICO YouTube channel. Okay. If you have financial constraints to enroll into any of the course, you can even have the free content which is available in the website, and also you can download free focus guide, PYP free analysis which is put in the UP. There are a lot of free content also to guide you. So as I said, overall success percentage is very high. I'm talking about myths about medical science. They say syllabus is huge, wrong. They say no guidance, wrong. They say it's a low scoring. No, you need proper guidance to score high. Now I have students easily scoring more than 280. Almost 10 plus students have done it. Look at the scores. Dr. Srija, 298. Dr. Akshita, 299. Dr. Kiranmai, 306. Long back in 2016, Dr. Nandini Devi scored 308. Rehana Bashir scored 305 in 2019. Dr. Gaurav Saini scored 298. Now you can argue saying that 298 is not 300, but it is very close. If 300 is the number which will push you to take up an optional, I have students who have scored 300 plus. I cannot give you 100 students' name, because the overall sample of students attending this exam itself is 100 in a year. Right? When you compare with that, if someone says nobody scores 300, yes, there are students who can score 300. You can show their names. And also if someone, when you go to any coaching institute, if someone tries to bias you by saying, or tries to fool you by saying there is no toppers from medical science, look at the names. 2016 to 2023, we have Dr. Nandini Devi, Dr. Anand Kumar, Dr. Dheeraj, Dr. Aswati. UPSC MEDICO stepped in 2020, my first batch, All India rank 20, All India rank 16, All India rank 19. These are all my students. Interviews are there in UPSC MEDICO YouTube channel. So last 2 years, we have Aditya Sharma, Anjali Garg, Prashant and Ajay Singh. We have toppers from medical science background. Now don't argue by saying we need more than 10 toppers in top 50. How is it possible, man? This is highly competitive exam. Hardly 100 plus students from medical science are giving this exam. So 100 plus out of 15 lakhs. Look at the ratio. When you compare that, that's the reason success percentage is high with us. So we have to increase the sample size. If you are biased towards something else, like if you are opting for some other optional, then this is the time you have to think and make sure that we need a good sample size to analyze the facts. Unless you have a good sample size, don't go by mythology or myths which are propagated by the coaching institutes outside. So don't go by that. Okay, so these are the toppers. When someone says no toppers for medical science, we do have toppers. We do have rankers who scored 300 plus. Scoring 300 plus is not the sole criteria. This exam is game of balance. This exam is all about law of average. That means you have to score average or above average in all aspects of UPSC, starting from current affairs, personality test, CSAT, GS subjects, optional language, everything you have to have an above average. It's not about mastering medicine and not doing well in GS. For example, there is a classic case. One of my students scored more than 290 in 2023, but the top mark in medical science is 287 by Dr. Pragati Rani. Okay, she scored AR 300. Now look at this. He scored 290 plus. He's too good with medical science, but he's not in the list. But he didn't even attend personality test. What does this signify? If you're too good to be a doctor, you will remain as a doctor. You will never become a civil servant. Right? I have good number of students scoring more than 350 out of 500 in Grant Test, the test series with UPSC MEDICO. You know, the agony is that 9 out of 10 times they are not clearing prelims, that is CSAT. So yes, there are good performers in medical science, but they are not able to reach to that stage of performance. There are people who have realized the game of balance. They are not targeting 300, they are targeting more than 270, and they are happily in the list. So the target should be 280 plus to be on the safer margin. If fortune favors brave, you will easily enter the 300 stage. But don't start with an immature mindset. If you are a beginner, medical science is my forte. I have done 5.5 years of medical science. Let me target 350 plus. Don't do that mistake. Even if you score 350, they'll do scaling and they'll give you 280. Because optional score is relative. Optional score is based on sample. Optional score is based on performance from all the optional students. They want to give you an average score so that there is no bias. When there is lot of factors which you cannot control, don't aim for glory for medical science optional. Even I don't do that. I never ever get into the brains of students to perform well in medical science. I have never called any of the students saying, you score 300, you perform well, you do well with medical science. It's a crime, because when you try to, let's say this is the balance we have. Okay, let's take a classic example. Okay, if this is GS and if this is medical science optional, you have to balance them. If you work more on medical science, your scores will get affected in GS. You have to balance both of them. If I ask you to learn more about medical science, your GS course will be affected because you have limited time. If any optional preparation is taking more than 3 months of your time, it is not a good optional. Because out of 12 months, you only have 3 months to prepare for optional. If you're doing 6 months and 12 months to bring glory to optional, then it will affect your GS scores. And people are doing that outside coaching institutes for different optionals like sociology and anthropology. They want to sustain the market for those optionals, and what they do, instead of conducting 3 months of classes, they conduct 6 months of classes, 6 months daily 4 hours. They also do daily answer writing program for optional for 12 months or 6 months is not a good idea. 3 months or less than that is ideal. Okay, so UPSC is a game of balance. It's a law of average. Don't always aim for 300 plus. Just be optimistic. Even if you score 280, there are doctors who are performing well. For example, Anshupriya scored All India rank 16, the best rank so far in medical science optional. She scored 260 plus in medical science. She has realized this importance of balancing the things. Last year, Dr. Prashant, who scored All India rank 70, he openly admitted saying, sir, I know that I'm not going to score 300 because it's going to take a lot of time to score 300 in medical science. But I know that I can be an IAS officer by mere score of 250 to 260 plus. He only targeted for that. He only learned for 1 month the optional. This is personal experience I have with the doctor. So these are the things which will put you. For example, you take Dr. Anjali Garg. Dr. Anjali Garg scored 240 in the last year. Now she worked hard to get 280 plus, and she is an IS rank. So you can improve the score. You can reach up to 280. You need optimistic ideology. You should be optimistic about the scores in any optional, not only medical science, any optional. Blindly you cannot aim for 300 because they do scaling. Hardly 10 to 12 students they get 300 in optional. The average score in an optional for topper is 260 to 280. Any topper with any optional, you go and see, they will be scoring in the range of 260 to 270, from there to 290 to 300. There will be outlier who give their heart and soul to the particular optional. They might have given 6 to 7 attempts. You don't know the background of that. You cannot compare the score or the top mark. You can only compare the overall performance. Now, there is one more myth about medical science optional. We need to be toppers in medical college. No. There are doctors, students with average marks in graduation are also doing well with us. It's a game of answer writing. It's not about concepts or clinical knowledge. If you develop good knack of answer writing, you will perform well. So you don't need to be a topper in medical college. And I'm getting a lot of calls these days. Toppers saying not to opt for this optional. I don't know which toppers they are. Because in the YouTube, the algorithm always shows up the most watched videos and old videos over the new videos, because new videos always has less views, right? So because those old videos given by toppers are published by reputed YouTube channels, they have more views and they are highly seen in the algorithm. So the problem here is, even I say that toppers before 2019, because they do not have proper guidance about medical science, they might say it's a time consuming one, but you'll hardly find any doctor after 2020 recommending you to not to choose optional, because slowly the trend is changing. Now you have guidance, now you have expertise, now you have courses, notes, test series practice daily, and everything is there. So I think the trend is changing after 2020. So you might see one or few doctors that could be outliers. For them, medical science was not their cup of tea. Maybe they have a more gap between graduation to UPSC attempts because they lost touch with medicine, or they might not find right support at the right time. Okay, I respect their feelings. Even I say to you, doctor or a medical graduate, if you feel that medical science is not your cup of tea, if you are not interested, or if you do not have any passion in it, you don't have to choose it. There is no pressure. You should feel happy that UPSC has given you a choice. But problem is, with choice comes confusion. With choice comes bias. People will push you into the wrong lines with the wrong propaganda. Okay. So even if I sound biased, okay, don't follow my words. Take a checklist, look at the facts and decide. Okay, which is right for you. Always go for the right choice and stick to it. Why I'm saying stick to it? Let's come back to this classic case of Kunal R. Virulkar. See, this guy is in the news of late because he has given 10 attempts at UPSC. He has attended 7 mains, attended 5 personality tests. Even after that, he couldn't perform. In the last personality test, he scored 200 plus. We made most of the UPSC coaching institutes have made a case study over it, because we need to understand why a student is struggling to perform well in each and every attempt. Okay, one classical thing we have found out is, this guy is frequently changing his optional subject. Why is he changing an optional subject? Let's say you are a doctor, just passed out MBBS graduate. Without proper preparation, you give medical science optional in your first attempt because you don't have time. You score 220, you are disheartened. You call your senior or someone who was given long back in 2018 or 2016. He is also a failed candidate. He'll say, don't go for medical science, go for something else. He choose anthropology. In the next attempt, he'll score 240. He'll call me. He'll call me, sir, anthropology से interest नहीं हो रहा है. I want to switch to medical science. He'll start from medical science, but he lost 2 years of knowledge on medicine. Now he struggles to get to 260. He might fall short by 10 marks there. Then he'll start thinking that it's useless medical science. Now he'll switch to GS related one because it's been almost 3 years. Now he'll go for sociology. In sociology he might score 265. Okay, again he lost by 5 plus. Then what he'll do, Ammo, it's been 3 years, let's not get into, then let's choose plan B, let's go for medical science. Now start from 0. This time he'll end up scoring 270. He's still short by plus 2 or plus 3 marks. So what happens throughout this process, frequently he's changing optional. Please, 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 it's very important. It's a classic case of Kunal sir, who is like, he has given 10 attempts. We should respect his persistence and perseverance, but we should also take negatives about his kind of preparation, right? So it's not, you shouldn't be changing optional so frequently. Stick to optional. You know Dr. Pragati Rani, All India rank 300, the topper of medical science this year. She scored around 240 to 250 last year. She called me and she said, I want to improve 40 plus, and now she is 287. You know Dr. Anjali Garg last year, All India rank 70, I think. Her score was 240, then she jumped to 283. If you persist with an optional for the subsequent year, and if you try hard, you can easily improve 40 to 50 plus marks. If you give up and choose something else, it's the easiest way to confuse you, right? If you call someone and say I couldn't do it, the only thing you can change is optional. You cannot change your GS subject, you cannot change ethics, you cannot change CSAT. The only option is to change optional, and it's easy. The brain will push you to do that mistake, but don't commit that mistake. Persist with optional at least for one more year. Even after one more year, if you think that it's not working out, then it might not be your cup of tea, man. It's okay. It's okay. It's not that because I'm saying that medical science should be your cup of tea, you might not like the taste of it, right? So then it is the right time, but only with one attempt, that too imperfect attempt without guidance. If you start believing that it's not going to work for you, I think it's immaturity. Okay, don't commit that mistake. So frequent changing of optional subject is also not advised, right? So these are the few things I wanted to tell you. So the final facts are 9 out of 10 students in the list crack it with medical science optional. The number is more. It's a very good backup option like plan B. With UPSC MEDICO, I can promise you that you can finish optional in less than 3 months of time. And it's very important that it's not optional. Optional is crucial. Optional is good, but optional is not deciding, because the war is always fought in the general studies ground. You should also have general study knowledge, current affair knowledge, society related knowledge, women empowerment, financial things, economic things, international relationships. You should be a master of that also. Just having medical science knowledge will not give you UPSC seat. Okay, you have to balance. Okay, very important. The battle is in the general study ground. You are battling with humanitarian students. Just keep that in mind. And undoubtedly, I could say medical science is an optional with highest success rate. Yes, the level is a bit higher than graduation knowledge. If you are MBBS passed out student, that knowledge will not help you. You need higher knowledge than that. And practice is more important than learning, and answer writing is the key here. Better to deal with the devil, you know, that's what I say. That's what I started. Like with this norm, I have started this medical science coaching for 5 years now. And my sincere suggestion is, if you like medicine, go with it, because do not add a new subject to your bag of learning. If you opt for anthro or socio or history or geography, then you have to start from zero, and you're adding a burden to already filled bag of learning, right? So because medicine, you have, if 5.5 years of your knowledge is not going to help you, how come something else will help you, man? Don't go by the bias which is the propaganda which is propagated outside. Medicine will help you, but you need right guidance in the right direction for that. Okay. So let's also do a quick coaching comparison. I have analyzed the coaching from Anthropology, because the most opted optional by any of the medical student is Anthropology. They offer you 6 months of coaching and 4 hours per day. The topmost institutes I'm talking about. Mostly they're offline, live classes. You have to go to the institutes or you can attend live. And they also do daily answer writing for almost 6 months. They'll kind of drain you out, because their purpose is to bring glory to the Anthropology. And these are the price list I had seen, 45,000 to 60,000. And the sample size is high, because there are more than 2,500 students who are actually writing it with Anthropology. The problem is, your answers should be so much value added, so much interesting to get good score, because competition pool is high. The more is the competition, the more beautiful your answers should be, right? And also, you are competing with non-medical students, mainly IIT and IIM students, with almost 4 to 5 years of preparation time. For a doctor, you hardly get 1 to 2 years. So there is a time bias, there is a sample bias there. But when you look at medical science optional, we have plans starting from less than 6 months, less than 3 months. If you're serious, even if you spend 2 hours per day, you can finish all pre-recorded up-to-date lectures. You have 200 hours. Hardly you can finish it in 90 to 100 days. So less than 3 months of time you can finish your first preparation of optional. And we are not only giving 1 year course, we are giving you coverage. So this is actually for 6 months course. For 2 years at cost effective price, including test series, you will be covered even for your next attempt also. So even it is economically feasible for you to learn medical science. We have a low sample size, so you don't have to worry about much value additions and bringing too many presentation skills, because it's always based on the sample. They, like, your topper marks will decide your marks, right? So only medical competition pool, it's easy to beat. It's relatively easy to beat. So this is the coaching comparison I did. Let me tell you again, I am not doing this comparison for UPSC MEDICO sake. I am doing this because day in and day out, 7 out of 10 calls what I get from students are based on optional dilemma. They always need facts like this, and all these are facts. For any student, any medical student who have opted for anthropology or sociology or something else, please don't get disheartened. It's okay. Like, you can do wonders even with those subjects. I'm telling you now, a doctor can do even wonders with mathematics. If you haven't started yet, my advice or suggestion is to go for medical science. There are a lot of myths surrounding medical science. I think with this video, I was able to answer most of them with the facts. You will find more facts in the UPSC MEDICO article section and also UPSC MEDICO YouTube channel. I am here to guide you. I am always available. I have my contact. Okay, you can go through this 8978444188. You can call me anytime. You can WhatsApp me. You can send an email to this. A lot of things are there in the website upsc.medcampus.io. Okay, whatever is your cup of tea or your choice, stick to it. Start loving it. Let's say, I always tell my students, the war has already started. It is time to fight. It is time to fight with the weapon you have. But the agony with medical science students is, instead of fighting with their medical science weapon, they're not fighting war. They're not fighting war. What they're doing is, they're preparing a weapon. The sharpening of the weapon, the adding features to the weapon itself, the weapon creation itself is taking so much of time. By the time the exam comes, they're not ready. They haven't practiced with that weapon. The preparing weapon itself, if it is taking a lot of time, then you're not ready for the war. Right? So it's important to go with whatever weapon you have. You have to trust it, you have to believe it, and you have to improve your practice throughout the phase of preparation. Okay, you have to actually fight the war. It's not about preparing a war. If you keep on preparing a weapon, you will become more like a teacher rather than an aspirant. An aspirant should fight a war and win it and become a civil servant and get rid of medicine. Right? So that is what I tell my students. Now, there are few complaints I receive from anthropology, because in the recent past I spoke to almost 80 students who have switched from anthropology to medical science. The topmost common reason was they are worried about plan B, because if I still stick to anthropology, I'll be na ghar ka na kham ka kind of thing. Like, they don't know what happens if they fail this time. And they're also having some alienated feel, because heart says medicine, mind says anthro. They're always stuck in this dilemma. At least staying with medicine, it gives them sense of comfort that I'm still a doctor. I can, if someone else calls me, like my family or relatives, I can at least prescribe a medicine to them. And also the problem with alienation is, when we sit in UPSC preparation, slowly our PG students, like our students, they get into PG, they start getting their stipend, they start enjoying their clinical life, then it is hard for us to keep up the motivation. So that's why I tell, let's form a cult. We have a very good social groups wherein we constantly motivate you to keep you glued to your goal. Okay, and also sometimes they're not finding interest in anthro, and not even 10% is medically oriented. At least genetics part is there. Okay, and also to stay relevant, now they require a lot of value additions, and this is not completely objective. They say some parts of it are subjective and philosophical. So these are the top complaints from anthropology students. So okay, so I was able to cover a lot of things for beginners, and there is one more thing I want to add up here. this is UPSC versus NEET PG preparation. There is one set of students who have opted for medical science. They have this dilemma whether to go for UPSC specific coaching or only NEET PG specific coaching. Let's say, will the Marrow or Prep Ladder or DAMS notes, will they help me to score well in UPSC medical science optional? This is the common question they ask. And they also ask, like, let's not get into that. This is the common question they ask. So the difference, I'll tell you, the difference is NEET PG, the syllabus is huge. There are no boundaries. It's an MCQ based exam. It has a crisp knowledge is needed, like what is most common, what is gold standard investigation, what is investigation of choice, what is the next step of management. So these kind of questions you need to know. Concepts are more important. And there are almost 19 subjects. When you come back to UPSC medical science optional, syllabus is limited. There are boundaries. And answer writing is the key here. It's not MCQ based, because in PG preparation they'll not teach you images, flowcharts, management algorithms, case based differential diagnosis approach. But these are more important for UPSC. You need in detail answer writing practice. You don't need crisp knowledge. For example, recently there was a question on how ORS is prepared for 10 marks. They will not teach you ORS preparation tips in NEET PG, right? There was a 20-mark question on what is stress reflex and its importance. You go and open your NEET PG notes, there you will not find 20 marks content on stress reflex there. Content lag is the serious issue if you follow PG related notes for UPSC exam. UPSC exam, you need lot of content, and also the content in a presentable fashion, the PYQ specific preparation. And there are no subjects like this, ENT, ophthalm, radio, anesthesia, ortho. There's only 12 subjects here with limited syllabus. So I want to conclude by saying, if you want to use NEET PG sources for UPSC, I can't say they are useless, okay, because nothing is useless in life. The knowledge is always wisdom. It is helpful. But exam specifically, it is not that much useful for scoring. Let me put it this way. Let's say you are in an F1 race. You're fighting an F1 race. You need Ferrari, not ambassador. Okay, you need Ferrari, not ambassador. If you're going on a village, ambassador will serve the purpose. So you have to choose your resource according to the demand. Okay, so there's a lot of differences between NEET PG way of content and UPSC specific content, and we have worked for 6 years in giving you UPSC specific content in videos and notes form. Okay, check out the UPSC MEDICO website. You'll find a lot of resources there, and I'm always here to guide, as I said. So let's conclude this session. Irrespective of what choice you make, okay, what choice you make, it's important that you make an informed choice. After making a choice, you have to stick to that choice and you have to make it work. But in the process of making it work, don't take too much of time. If you think that this is not your cup of tea, be brave enough to change, switch to the other choice. But what I personally believe is, always and always better to deal with the devil you know. And also, I do not recommend a medical graduate to add a new subject to his bag of learning, because you're already overburdened. Okay, don't go by propaganda. Don't go by myths. With my 6 years of knowledge, I hope I have cleared lot of air. Okay, I think I have busted lot of myths. I have given you the facts, and I'll be continuing doing that in the future. Okay, the trend will change. The trend is always already changing. A lot of medical science students are now happy with medical science. We'll work it hard. Okay, we'll make it happen. Let's work hard to make it scoreable. But in the process, I don't want you to work hard to bring glory to the medical science. I want you to work hard to get into civil services and get rid of medical science. I think that should be my purpose, right? So signing off, all the best.